We're happy to be joined today by the recently retired First Justice of the New Bedford District Court, the Honorable Bernadette Sabra. So nice of you to stop by.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate this is my first invitation outside of retirement, so I'm happy to be here.
I know you became a judge, you were in your 40s and so forth. What was it like to become a judge and, put that robe on and go out there and preside over sessions, especially the first few times you did it? What was that like?
It was a little intimidating,
Right.
but I also felt ready to take that challenge because I had been in the courts for enough time to see some great practitioners, some great judges ahead of me, and so I hopefully absorbed that. But it's always a learning process. The new technologies and everything that not only play a part in the way we did our job, but also in the evidence that we would hear. Like when I started, there were no real cell phones that people would have all this information and texts and videos on. We all had to adjust, and I think are still adjusting.
Now, you became the presiding judge a couple of years later, a few years later, of the New Bedford District Court. Did that for 18 years. You really are like the community judge. You really learned a lot, I'm sure, about the New Bedford community.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was it like being the presiding judge at New Bedford District Court?
Well, it was a tremendous responsibility because you do feel the needs of the community very intimately. You feel the needs of a very large staff, between the clerk's office and probation and security and the interpreters and the lawyers and stuff, way beyond just the legal work in the courtroom.
What about making decisions that judges have to make? When to give a sentence? How long should the sentence be? Should there be more rehabilitation? Should there be more punishment? What is the bail? How much is the bail? How much should it be? All those kind of decisions that really the district court judge makes dozens, as you know, per day. And by the end of the week, probably 100 or more decisions. What thought process goes into making those decisions like sentencing and things like that?
Well, first of all, you have to be on your toes in a busy place like New Bedford. The decisions that you have to make come fast and furious. One thing that I think that all judges try to do is to judge each case and focus very intensely on the one case that's in front of them. You're making the judgment calls. Sometimes they're close, sometimes they don't please everybody, but you do have to watch and make sure that the case that's before you is fully and fairly evaluated as best you can in the limited time that you have. Your intent should be to do it right.
A lot of times, people in the media will second guess a judge's decision. A lot of times, they'll say the judges should have been tougher or the sentence should have been longer or something like that. And I often wonder what the judges thought about that, if that bothered the judges. Maybe sometimes that person who's making the opinion didn't have all the factors that the court had. How did you feel about that when something like that, when you were second guessed or Monday morning quarterback, so to speak?
I understood that everybody has their perspective on it. You're dealing with someone's liberty. You're applying the law as best you understand it. And what other people say about it, frequently they're not the ones that were in the courtroom listening to both sides of the argument. They might have just read something in the paper about a set of facts, and then some more things come out before a judge in an argument, and you can't be swayed by public opinion. But we're human. And so there are times where those kinds of things, especially if they're relentlessly attacking you in the media, sometimes some of those daggers hit home a little bit.
Did you enjoy being a judge?
Oh yes, it was the greatest honor and privilege I've had in my life professionally. I'll always cherish all those years and all the people.
Tell me a little bit about dealing with juries. I see juries come in and they come in kind of like they don't really want to be there. But once they're there and now they have to decide, it seems to me like they really take it seriously.
Absolutely. It's a gratifying thing that was one of the first things that helped reinforce me in my new role as a judge way back when, was that the integrity of the jury system is still so viable, and by and large, they get it right. And they really try hard to listen to what the judge says in terms of their instruction. I used to tell them that no matter what their verdict was, here you all came in 6 or 7 strangers. You didn't have any agenda in mind. You didn't know one another. And yet you all came to a unanimous decision. So I think we can feel pretty comfortable that it came out the way it should. Over the 22 years that I did this, there might have only been 1 or 2 that I was a little surprised at the jury verdict.
Right. What about dealing with the attorneys? You know, attorneys are out there in front of you and they're arguing back and forth, of which I was one many times. And sometimes the attorneys, the adrenaline starts flowing a little bit and the attorneys are arguing with each other and things ramp up a little bit. So then after I leave the courtroom, I said, maybe I went a little overboard or whatever. So I often wondered, like, what does the judge think? Does the judge ever think, oh, God, you know, these attorneys are being a pain in the neck today? See, you're done now, so you can say whatever you want.
Oh, you know, I understand the passions of a zealous advocate. I luckily didn't see a whole lot of horrible examples of bad civility between lawyers, even if every once in a while a little toe steps over the line. They usually pull it back pretty quick. Because it was a gradual shift to kind of coerce people into that treatment and not just punish the drug offenses or the property offenses. It's not 100% solution, but it gave some number of people a chance to get clean, stay clean, because when you removed the cloud of addiction, you found that there were people who had talents and abilities and they could get jobs and keep jobs and they were good at something else. But it got totally obscured with their drug involvement. Getting people into treatment actually helps reduce recidivism. It didn't work 100% of the time. It never will because it's such a tough problem. But it was a worthy cause to keep trying to do it.
So tell me about your retirement now. What are your thoughts about what you're going to be doing now? You're not going to be sitting in the court anymore as a presiding judge.
Well, you know, my husband and I worked together for almost 10 years before I became a judge after my stints in the public sector. I am returning to working in private practice. You know, I'm not ready to hang it all up yet. I'm still viable and not too old to do it,
So husband and wife attorneys, right? That must be interesting.
We had and still have a great partnership. You know, we've been together for almost 42 years. He and I just are life partners. We share everything. We bounce ideas off each other. We respect each other's intellect and abilities, and we're very supportive of each other. And he's certainly been always supportive of me.
So you had an opportunity to meet the one and only GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Yes.
And that is Tom Brady, of course. Well, the other GOAT is Steve Sabra, but we're talking about the other GOAT, Tom Brady. What was that like meeting the Patriots quarterback?
I was so impressed by his manner. He was so patient to put up with all of us who just wanted that little snapshot. A little bit of a goofball in the sense of, you know, he doesn't seem like he has much of an arrogance about him. So I was very impressed with that. And my daughters were too.
How did you know this was the right time to retire?
Like you said, I was just about 42 when I became a judge. And the mandatory retirement age was 70. And I never imagined myself staying quite that long. To go out sort of strong and pick my own time. And I didn't want to get to the point where if the job was beginning to weigh on me in some way, I didn't want to be some grouchy old judge on the bench. So hopefully I got out before too much of that happened. I don't know.
Well, Judge, we really appreciate you stopping by here. I find it very, very interesting. You've had a tremendous career, both as a prosecutor working in practice and, of course, your run as a judge and a presiding judge here in New Bedford District Court. We wish you all of the health and happiness in retirement, and thank you again for stopping on by.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Paul.